So hi everybody, my name is Pearl Hawai'i, and I am not going to go into a big description and introduction about who I am and what I've done because it will take too long, and this is quite a short talk. So I'm just going to use a little bit from actually my book when I describe about what I do, and I call it I am a mystic and I fight fear. And before you get scared, I would say that being a mystic is something that we have in every school of thought around the world, and that includes being a mathematician, you know, because we have to, at a certain point when I've studied maths, we have to sort of let go of, let's say, black and white and what we know and start to dive into things like quantum theory. But don't worry, I'm not going to try and explain quantum theory. So this talk is really about fear of success. So the first thing is, how do we hold our fears? And how can we, especially at the present moment, deconstruct our fears? And that's a very big question. It's a question that's been around for, you know, ever since we began as human beings. And I think at the present moment, what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of talk about not having any fear, okay? And because a lot of my practice has come from traveling, one of the things that I've learned is not to be completely lacking in fear, but to be wise about fear. To understand when our fear is trying to tell us something important, and to understand when that fear is kind of driving us and when it's not serving us anymore. And this is so important at the present moment because we have a lot of things that we have to be aware of that we were not aware of before. We have a brand new challenge, a brand new approach. Now, when all this started, I was kind of like, oh yeah, well, I have a lot of experience in this and I have a lot of experience in that, so I'm going to be able to handle this. And it's new, it's different. Even the medical professionals who are dealing with it are dealing with something very, very new. And so we have to learn how to be even wiser than before about how we do everything in our day-to-day life, okay? And the way that I really approach fear or anxiety is that I feel that it's really important that we turn it around and that we face it. And that instead of running away from it or trying to anesthetize fear or just pretend, you know, that it's not there, is that we become the hunter and we start hunting our fears down. And what that means is, and I always talk about this with reference to, if you ever see a movie, and the one that pops up to me is Crocodile Dundee 2, you know, when you got all these guys who are coming after Crocodile Dundee, and he doesn't just go after all of them at the same time. He's very wise, and he kind of comes up and goes around, and he comes at them like one at a time. So he kind of picks them off. And that's a great way for me of approaching anything that makes you afraid. So instead of trying to deal with everything in one go, which is really challenging, if we get very quiet and calm and we can use meditation or just breathing to get to a very calm place, then we can allow one fear to come up, one thing we're concerned about. And then we can start to break that down. So, for example, we've seen an awful lot over the last month or so about financial fear. And I think anybody who's self-employed and a lot of fitness instructors have experienced some real concerns. And one of the things that we can do is kind of just take that fear in isolation and examine it and do our best. You know, take action, do whatever we need to do to look at it and take care of it. And another fear could be making sure that we have good lines of communication with our family and friends, even if we can't be with them. So for example, we can structure certain things so that we know that they will contact us if they have a problem. And we start to create systems of saying, well, I'm not going to panic and I'm not going to be driven by this fear, but I'm going to take it into consideration and deal with it. And the one thing I always equate this to is when I've been traveling, and particularly when I did the Camino de Santiago, was a big thing for me was about carrying enough water for the day. So I was staying in places, in hotels I'd booked or was finding. So I knew I was going to have a bed for the night. I knew there was probably going to be food there, but I had to make sure that I was carrying enough water for the day. But if I carried too much, if I was too fearful and I put too much in my rucksack, because I had, you know, all the bags and stuff, I would make my journey very, very difficult. So with our fear, our concern about things, what we have to do is make sure that we get that balance right, so that we're behaving appropriately and wisely, as opposed to just behaving in a knee-jerk or panicked way. Okay? So that's one way of looking at fear. And I would just add another thing here is, a really great thing is if you ever watched Harry Potter and you ever or read it about Defense of the Dark Arts. And one of the things that we can do, and I kind of see people doing this as well, but we have to be careful with any practice, especially this. We can laugh at our fears. We can laugh at our problems. So for example, in Harry Potter, when somebody was really scared of something, they had to imagine it in a funny way so that they could laugh at it. And if they started laughing, then it took away that fear. And when I traveled to Sri Lanka and I talked to people there, and it was a lot of difficulties in the country, I always said to them, how do you deal with all this stuff? How do you deal with all these things that are kind of crazy here? And the guy just said, he said, we just laugh at our problems in this country. That's how we get by. But at the same time, we shouldn't let that stop us from taking sensible action, of course. Okay. So that's a little bit about deconstructing fear. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was success, and this word that we have, success. Now, what I did in the book is examine fear, examine success, and then look at the very many different ways that those two things can come together. So sometimes we can have a false fear of real success. And when I talk about real success, what I'm really talking about is doing the thing that is really true to you. So it's not about success on necessarily anybody else's terms. It's not about making millions of pounds. It's not about having millions of followers. And I think, right now, one of the things we're seeing is that those levels of success and things that we've measured possibly in the past may not be appropriate for right now. And I think it's really important to talk about, I would say, business success. Because one of the things that sometimes gets forgotten, and I think this is very important in terms of being a fitness instructor or any business, is that we are there to support our customers. We are there to support them. That's our job. And sometimes when we look at things going on, it feels like, there are certain communications at the moment. It's about, our customers should be supporting us. It's like, well, our job as whatever we do in life, whether we're writers or teachers or delivery people, our job is to serve what our customers need from us right now. And we're seeing businesses really shift and change to how we're doing that, how we're able to serve people right now. But one of those things that we have when we have this false fear of real success is that many people are now stepping up and stepping into doing what they've wanted to do for a long time, because they feel the need, they see the need to do that and to be who they need to be, to serve in the way that they've kind of always wanted to, but been a bit hesitant about getting out there and doing that. And that's a really great thing, because it means that, they're getting out there and doing what they need to do, but at the same time, they're serving more and more people. So more and more people are being supported and helped through this time, and that's fantastic. But another way of looking at it is another intersection we can have between fear and success is that we can have real fear of false success. So what that means is we might have everybody else telling us this is what success is. And we perceive a fear because we don't really want to be doing those things. When people say to us, oh, well, if you want to, you know, for example, if you want to be a writer, then you have to, you know, go and publish, you know, write this book, or you have to do it this way, or you have to do that way. And somebody feels very resistant because that's not the book they want to write. You know, and I've had this, I actually, because I work with writers and publishers, and I've had writers who've got the big book deal, and halfway down the line, they're like, you know what, I'm going to have to let this go because the publisher wants me to write a book that just isn't what I do, it isn't how I teach, it isn't how I serve. So we have this sort of false success of being or doing or having something that's not really true to who we are. And it can be very, very hard to resist that. It can be very, very hard to resist the whole world saying, well, you should want this, you know, they're going to pay you loads of money to do this thing. You know, everybody else wants to do it. Why don't you want to do it? You know, and it can be very hard to resist that kind of false success. But I think the thing is, when we really do what's true to us, it just feels really right. And we have another word that kind of is around about success very often, which is authenticity. And we hear that so much. It's one of those kind of buzzwords that's been around in business. It's like, you know, to be authentic and to do this and to do that. And it's, you know, it's so important because, you know, we need to be true to who and what we are. Because I don't know about you, but I've been very successful in other areas where I was being successful doing a job that I really hated. And, you know, sometimes it's very important for us to do those particular jobs for a time. There are other reasons, other factors for why we're doing them. And so for me, I was in finance industry for about 13 years. And I knew that I wasn't really supposed to be there. I knew that it wasn't quite the right thing. But I did meet a lot of people who I'm still friends with. And last year, I wrote a financial thriller. And so everything that I had learned in those 13 years came back to me. And it's a weird thing because it's extremely relevant to a lot of things that are going on right now. But as I was working through, I was thinking, wow, this is why I was there. This is why I was there. Because I'm learning about this, because I know about this, because I can understand this, because I can speak this language, because I can explain this. So a lot of when we talk about being authentic, it doesn't mean that there are not times when we are not being ourselves, but it brings us back to being who we are. So it can be a little bit confusing. And one of the ways that I describe this in the book, and I want to try and explain it to you as simply as I can, because I think, you know, this is a really, really important concept in the present moment. Because I think that in terms of how, you know, we're all feeling at the moment, there are many things that we would like to be doing that we cannot be doing. So if I talk about authenticity and being real and being successful, all those things, for me, there are a lot of parts of myself right now that I can't express, that I can't do. And that's true for an awful lot of people, that we're restricted in many, many ways. And it's very important that we understand that just because we cannot be doing something in this moment does not mean we've lost that part of ourselves, because it will come back. You know, for me, there are places that I love to go and I can't go there right now. But it doesn't mean I'm being inauthentic. That doesn't mean to say I'm not being real or successful. What it means is that I understand that I can't let go of who I truly am. So for example, at the moment, if there are things that you are trying to do, wish you could do, and you have to let go of those for the moment, that is also about serving who you are. So let me try and explain that in a simpler way. So for example, I kind of seem to keep coming back to Harry Potter. And the way I explain this in my book is that, I don't know if you know Professor McGonagall. She's the headmistress. She's not the headmistress, she's the temporary headmistress, because Dumbledore was the headmaster. But she's a witch, right? She's a great witch. But part of being a great witch is that she can turn into a cat. So she's not a cat, but she can turn into a cat. She can not be a cat. And then she can come back to being a witch. So for example, being able to transform into something that we are not is actually part of being who we are. And that's a concept that sometimes we call embracing the other. And another way of describing that would be when I spend time with my grandma. I love my grandma very much. And so when I'm spending time with her, very often I will sit and watch TV with her, and I'll watch something that I would never watch on my own. But it doesn't make me less of who I am. It makes me great granddaughter, really nice granddaughter, because I'll sit and watch something that she will enjoy. So in our present moment, there's a lot of things and ways that we are having to adapt and possibly be what we are not in order to be who we truly are. So for example, at the moment, an act of love for my grandma is not to hug her, not to kiss her. And it's kind of going to a higher level of success in terms of having the power to, for example, in the case of Professor McGonagall, having the power to transform ourselves into something that we are not for the moment, because that's part of the whole picture of who we are and what we're capable of doing. Now, the other thing I spoke about in talking about this was about trying to support you to go through that fear of success, to come into a place of being powerful beyond measure. And I'm really pleased to say that actually I got that last night. I was thinking, well, how do I explain this? How do I explain this? And it was very simple in the end, because I was doing a lot of meditation last night. And as I was doing all this meditation, and as I explained it, I had spent yesterday running around and doing a lot of different things. And, all of those things were important, all those things were useful, and those were all skills and strengths and things like that of being able to be there and support other people. And those were all measures of success: being able to walk here, being able to drive the car, being able to have the patience to stand in queues, being able to figure out what needs to go where in terms of deliveries. These are all useful skills and part of being there for my family. But when I came back, there was a part of me that was really struggling in terms of not feeling that I was really serving them and really connecting with them. And so I did an awful lot of meditation last night, and we had that great big full moon outside, and I went to sleep, and in the middle of a dream, I kind of remembered that I have this power of just letting go of the love that I'm holding on to for my grandma, for my mum, for everybody else, and just letting go of that and feeling the huge power of that kind of love and light coming out. And I woke up and looked up, and the great big moon was over the window with that big circle around it. And I thought, wow, this power was here all the time. I could have done this any time in the last month. And I was like, whoa, I forgot this. I forgot that at any moment in time, I can just love everybody. And I can just release that and allow the love to come out of me. I don't have to go over and deliver medicine. I don't have to go and do that. But sometimes these things come in an order. And the order is that if I had recognized this kind of gift, and if I had realized how I could have done this at the beginning, I wouldn't have done all the rest of it. And it's very much like in The Alchemist, when at the end, and he finds that he has the treasure underneath where he was sleeping, but he has to go all the way around the world to find that. And that's very true of our success, that often it's the stuff that's within us that is so simple. Like for me, it's writing, but I had to go all the way around the world to kind of release that, the freedom to do that, to actually trust and to have the strength to go back to writing and go back to expressing myself. And I always say that writers, we have the easiest job because all we have to do is sit down and write, okay? And like everyone can write now. I mean, you know, pretty much, you know, most people, I say everyone. If we go back to a time, there was a time when you needed a monk to write everything down. But now writing is a skill that pretty much everybody has, or a way of communicating. And there are even packages that help people to communicate, even if they cannot speak. And yet, all I ever hear as a writing coach, working with people, is, all I ever hear is, I really want to write a book. I really want to write a book. And I say it's a bit like running a marathon. All you have to do is put one step after another. All you have to do is write all those words. And it is one of those things that people find so difficult because it's so simple. Because all it is about sitting down and finding that space and just writing word after word after word after word. And when you say it like that, people get very nervous about it because it comes down to facing yourself. It comes down to going through your fear. It comes down to pushing away all the reasons why you haven't written a book yet, because the book was already within you. So it's one of those things that when we're dealing with success, very often what we're dealing with is letting go of making it complicated, letting go of having to figure it all out. And what we need to do is just take one step at a time and just go one step after the other, after the other, after the other. And that's all it is. And so what I really want to do and kind of finish on in a way is understanding something about success and fear of success that is really relevant to the present moment. And very often, you know, all I'm seeing at the moment when I'm going online is people talking about the plans that they had, the business plans that they had, the structure that they had, the course they were working on. And most of us had other plans, you know, as John Lennon would say, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. Most of us had a great deal of other plans for this time. This is not where any of us expected to be. And that really brought me back when I was thinking about that. That brought me back to just over a year ago. I went through some big family illness situations and crises like many people are going through now. And every time we thought we'd kind of got to, I was supporting my brother. And so every time we got to kind of a milestone, like he came out of hospital, he was okay, there was this point, I kept thinking, and my family kept saying to me things like, now you just need to get on with your life, you need to get on with your life. And I was like, okay, let me try. But every time I kind of tried to get on with my life, I kind of get pulled back in. You know, there would be, oh, there's some small thing that needs, you know, oh, he needs to go to the doctors. Oh, you need to go and get the medicine. Oh, somebody else is ill. Okay, there's something else. And I kept trying to get on with my life. I was like, right, get on with your life. Go on. What's my next step? And I kept going and trying to do that. And I finally got to a place where I was saying to all my family, I said, okay, is everything good? Okay, right, you don't need me. No? Okay? All right, I'm going now and I'm going to go and get on with my life and I'm going to go and do that. And so I went off And as I'm sure you can guess, the next day I got a call and I said, okay, you know, something bad has happened again. And I remember saying, well, do you need me to come back? And they said, well, you know, it's okay. We can. And I thought, as soon as I put the phone down, I was like, no, I've got to go back. So I went rushing back again. And I really had a feeling so often of just like, I'm never going to get on with my life again. You know, I feel like I'm kind of stuck in this sort of, you know, Groundhog Day. People are kind of calling the situation a lot of the time. And I just remember I got back, I went in the house and I said, look, okay, so whatever you want to do now, I'm here. If you want to sit and talk it out, we can do that. If you want to go to the doctor, we can do that. I'm here. You know, I'm here to support you. And I went walking out in the garden and I had been feeling so kind of much frustration about, I can't get on with my life. What am I supposed to be doing? I'm so confused. And just as I walked out into the garden, I just remember feeling, I just let go. I just let go of everything. And I just thought, right, I'm here. I'm here where I'm supposed to be. And I'm here being able to be strong for everybody here. I'm here able to support my family. And I went into a state which a lot of people don't really understand and they don't like the word, but the word is surrender. You know, surrendering to the present moment, surrendering to what I can do. And I'm just here. I'm just here for whatever you need. I'm just here to, and I can do it. I've got the strength. I've got the wisdom. I can drive the car. I can talk doctorese. I can talk to this person for you. I can get on the laptop and do this. And in that moment, there was just a gentle, a real sense of peace in being able to say, right, I'm just going to surrender to this. Now, when I say that, it doesn't mean that afterwards it wasn't difficult. It doesn't mean to say that what I was doing wasn't difficult. But there was a real, that to me is success. That for me was success. That I can look back and say, in that moment, I had what it took to do the right thing and to be there and to do the right thing. And sometimes I think success doesn't really look like anything that we expect it to be. It's not what we expected. It's not necessarily how we thought it was going to work out. And so for me last night, when I was doing that meditation, that huge sense of peace and letting go and just releasing everything that I have in that moment was a sense of huge joy to be able to share and support people with everything that I've worked on and everything I've learned is an incredible feeling. And it's not what I expected to be doing. It's not how I thought this would work. But if I can let go of that frame of reference that I had in how I thought things were going to be and just dive into doing the work that, you know, I think that I was always training for, not only is that going to serve the people and serve the people that I really want to serve, it keeps me going. It's my success in terms of it gives me that feeling of meaning that I think I need and I think most people need at the present moment. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me. I'm going to stick around for a little bit to make sure you guys are okay. As I mentioned, I've recorded this for Go Sweat. And also next week, I'm going to be doing a Tuesday chat with Hayley Felton, who is an incredible teacher, and we're going to be talking about facing anxiety. And again, how we can deal with anxiety at the moment and how we have very different approaches to things. And that's what I like. We're going to do a chat because some of the things that have worked for her haven't really worked for me. And some of the things that I do to deal with and hunt down fear, she would not enjoy those approaches at all. So what we wanted to do was do something that would kind of create a bigger room for people, and also so we can look at it and say, well, you know, there isn't a one size fits all. There isn't like one approach. There isn't one form of success. And You know, there isn't one way that suits everybody, but if you keep trying and you keep practicing, then I think we will always succeed in finding the right way if we just keep exploring. Thank you so much. And I'm going to put you on mute now, so if anyone wants to hang around. But thank you very, very much for joining me. Okay, bye.